to start recording this. So I want to, my name is Mark Burson. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are joining us from. Welcome to today's webinar. It is, the title of our webinar is ASQ and ASQE's Vision and the Connection to Government. We have two incredibly distinguished guest speakers today. Ann Jordan, who is the ASQ CEO, and Jim Templin, who is the ASQE CEO. And we have a lot to talk to you about today. So today's webinar is brought to you by the American Society for Quality and the ASQ Government Division. I'm Mark Burson. I'm the chairman of the ASQ Government Division. And I'm also joined by Neota Brown, who's helping us from the technical aspect to make sure everything goes nice and smoothly. So just a little bit of an overview of ASQ and the Government Division. ASQ represents the voice of quality throughout the world with over 80,000 members. And the Government Division is one out of 26 divisions in the society. The Government Division is a community of practitioners focused on quality and performance improvement for federal, state, local, and international governments. We are composed of government leaders and employees, seasoned experts, consultants, practitioners, university professors, students, and others engaged with or interested in the public sector. So we'd like to invite you to join our community. And we have been doing webinars roughly one every month or a couple months, every other couple months. It has slowed down due to COVID, but we're going to increase that and move things along. When as more webinars are scheduled and planned, we will be posting these on the ASQ Government Division website. If you just go to asq.org and look for our technical community on the Government Division technical community, you will be able to find our events, and there'll be more posted also through LinkedIn. So for today's webinar, if you have a question, please put it in the Q&A tab. And at the end of the webinar, we will be, we'll basically go through a Q&A session. We're leaving about 10 to 15 minutes or so at the end. So we'll try to address as many questions as we can. There's also some contact information for the division officers as well as the speakers. So at the end of the presentation, you'll be able to see that. In addition, this webinar will be posted. We are recording it, so it will be available for those who have not been able to see it, or if you want to refer to it at a later date. So it will be posted on the Government Division website. So without further ado, I have the great pleasure of introducing our speakers today, who are Ann Jordan and Jim Templin. Ann joined the American Society for Quality in 2017 and was named CEO in January of 2021. Ann's expertise in the intricacies of association management and needs for quality governance in a non-for-profit organization has helped ASQ evolve and adapt to the unprecedented challenges facing organizations in today's world. Prior to joining ASQ, Ann held leadership roles in global responsibilities in diverse industry areas committed to quality systems and improvements. and actually began her career as a practicing lawyer and holds a law degree from the University of Iowa College of Law. And Jim Templin was named as the CEO of ASQE, which is ASQExcellence, when the organization was founded in 2020. In this role, Jim oversees the development, deployment, and delivery of the certification and organizational membership offerings for ASQE. Jim brings over 40 years of business and association experience to this role, including over 15 years as the founder and owner of global consulting firm, or a global consulting firm focused on business-to-business strategic planning, sales, marketing, and business intelligence. Jim graduated with an engineering degree from the University of Illinois in 1980. So without further ado, I'm going to turn this over to Ann and Jim. I'm so excited to have you all with me.
Thanks, Mark.
I think we're both pretty excited to be here as well.
Although I feel incredibly old after you read those numbers out loud.
I didn't make them up.
No, they're true. They're true.
Thank you, Mark, so much, and welcome everyone who's joining us. We do hope this is a very exciting session. We have a lot of exciting new information to get out there, and so Jim, why don't we just jump right in?
That's right. And for those of you who are wondering, Ann and I are in the same conference room, which is why we keep looking at each other.
Yes, virtual but together.
Yes.
So just to set the stage a little bit before we dive in, I personally am very humble and grateful to be in the role I'm in. My professional philosophy is firmly rooted in servant leadership. And so being able to work for an organization that was created 75 years ago, that's rooted in a mission to improve the world, to advance quality, resonates, and I take it very seriously. I'm also very aware that ASQ was originally incorporated with the particular purpose of advancing quality to advance the public. And a lot of people forget that public part. As a nonprofit membership society, a large part of our mission must be to advance and serve the public. So when you look at government, which I admit, I like to dabble in that world quite a bit. Very fortunate that the government division has allowed me to become a member of that division. The core of it, to serve the public. So when you combine ASQ's mission of advancing quality to improve the public with the government there to serve the public, you see this beautiful connection. And so as we go through this information that you're going to see today, a lot of it is going to be new, so there's a lot to take in. That ability to advance quality, to improve the performance of serving the public is everywhere. And we look forward to fantastic collaboration with the leadership of this division and how we can help advance the entire industry. Now, there's two of us here, Jim and myself. You might say, why? Some of you might be familiar with the fact that ASQ went through a historic transformation at the beginning of 2020. The main outcome of that was the introduction and inception of a new organization called ASQExcellence, or ASQE for short. There's been a lot of confusion as to why we did it. So I'd like to start out with a brief summary on that story. Simply stated, it aligns with strategy and structure. Right, ASQ starting in 2019 underwent a very deep dive on where are we going in the future, what is our next big thing in terms of strategy, and where the data told us we needed to go didn't align with our tax structure. The tax exempt entity, we are a 501c3, there are certain parameters that we have to stay within that classification. Little background on that. There's two big beasts in the nonprofit membership association world, a C3 and a C6. I'm guessing this audience is more familiar with that than a lot of our other audiences. But the two key takeaways is that, you know, ASQ as a 501c3 incorporated entity has to be operated exclusively for per chartered and educational purpose, and our primary beneficiary, as I alluded to earlier, must be the public. Now, the other animal, the C6, promotes common business interests. The primary beneficiary must be industry or a profession. Now, the IRS tells us, we don't get to pick, what activity falls into what bucket. And starting in 2004, the IRS looked hard at certification. Long story short, they determined certification revenue, if it exceeds a certain threshold, 15 to 20%, you got to put it in a C6 or we're going to shut you down. Anything below that is still subject to unrelated business income tax. So from a financial standpoint, it doesn't make sense. Jim is very pleased to tell you CERT is not only healthy but thriving.
Yeah, we're actually reaching record levels, pre-pandemic record levels of certifications. We have visibility into the next few months, and July is going to be another record for us.
Yeah,
so that would have only made the situation worse, honestly.
So the ASQ board had the decision to make of, look, are we going to continue to advance certification? If so, we need to create a C6, and they did. And really, that was the only choice they had to keep providing certifications around the world. Also, ASQE went after NCCA and now going after 17024 accreditation. You must be a C6.
Yes. And that's coming up this year, that it just gives us more focus, and you all appreciate how important that is to the world in terms of confirming and validating our commitment.
So whatever other myths people might have heard out there on why we have these two organizations, this is the true story, and it allows us to do a lot of the fantastic strategies that we're going to talk about today. This is just a breakdown to show you. So what sits in ASQ, what sits in ASQE. ASQE largely just organizational membership and all things CERT. Otherwise, it's back in ASQ. Even though they're separate, our models for delivering value are 100% intertwined and connected. It's not stated here, but throughout the presentation, you're going to start hearing the word system. We have actually taken quality management principles and applied it to our strategy for execution and delivering value.
We thought it would be interesting to just review our mission and vision and tagline if you haven't seen it yet. And you'll see some key differences here. And I just want to point out some of the key words that Ann has already referenced. We're here to serve organizations, and we are driving thought leadership to improve organizational success. I'll speak more to the Inspire Excellence tagline because you'll see through the Insights on Excellence work we're doing, we really hope we're inspiring excellence through all global communities. I would also point out that for the first time ever, there has been a focus, and I call it a privilege, to focus on organizational membership. The organizational membership has been a kind of a stepchild in the past, and I'll get into more of that because we're now reinvigorating that and making it more aligned with what ASQ is doing. And I thought it would also be helpful for you to see our board of directors because you'll probably recognize some of the names from there, and it's important to understand why they're there. Ann and I had the pleasure and the opportunity to develop the structure of the board, and then the ASQ board supported it. We're a smaller board, more nimble, and it also has some key differentiators. For example, we now have org member representation on the board. That's never happened at ASQ in the past. So you see 3 individuals who come from very well-known organizational member organizations, including one from the government, Steve Wilson. The other important issue here is that in order to protect and align our strategies, we also have representatives from ASQ's board on our board. So the past chair and Jordan, those are 2 of the key roles. And then a key one there from a technology and a content standpoint is the TCC liaison. Because you'll see so much of what we're doing from IOE is driving content generation. We need the alignment between the IOE and the TCC.
And that role directly benefits the government division.
Exactly.
So going forward as this system matures, that's the bridge almost that starts the data sharing.
We won't get into it in this presentation, but if you ever want to understand the certification implications, we say what ASQE is powering the certifications, but we're not changing the name. It's still an ASQ certification. You see all the ASQ badges probably on LinkedIn. The other key issue here is that the governance of the certification process is the CERT Council, which is an independent council comprised solely of ASQ members. So that's a connection that people don't understand, and I think it's important and you would appreciate that. The independent governance of that, which also is what helps us with our 17024 and NCCA. We need that independent perspective. This slide just briefly points out that we already do have a pretty interesting cross-section of organizational members represent government, not only from the United States, but also other regions of the world. So here's a few names. You'll recognize the government agencies. We've done some amazing work with them, and our hope is that after you guys see this and you can carry this to your colleagues, you'll see opportunities for possibly more organizational membership growth.
So the slide before you states the mission, vision, and goals of ASQ that were established for 2021 and 2022. The mission and vision are largely the same, but for the fact that organizational membership now has been removed. So the focus is truly on individuals and community to achieve excellence through quality. Now, the 4 goals that were developed that you see over on the right hand of your screen are foundational to the society: thought leadership, advanced and comprehensive education experience, member value and experience, and instituting best practices. They seem pretty vague, but when we go through the initiatives that support these goals, they are extremely robust and have significant impact to society. That's where the meat and real excitement of this presentation starts. I'm obviously not going to have the time to go through all the key initiatives, and we're going to hit primarily just on one that you see on the screen, and that is insights on excellent content and how that connects to advanced thought leadership at ASQ. Earlier in the presentation, I alluded to the fact that certain types of tax entities, C3 and C6, can only do select activities as determined by the IRS, certification being one. The other one is industry benchmarking. And so part of the strategic work that was going on, Jim alluded to the fact too that there wasn't a real value proposition for organizational membership. Through that voice of customer, one of the big things they said they wanted was benchmarking. Well, guess what? ASQ as a C3 cannot do industry benchmarking. That doesn't advance the public, it advances industry. So this again had to fall into a C6. So back to the structure follows strategy alignment. This is how we came up with what is included in ASQE. And to take you further on this conversation, I'm going to turn it over to Jim.
So we're really excited. This is the newest, I would say, member value that we're providing to organizational members. But it's even bigger than that, because while organizational members can benchmark, ASQ members and the global community benefit from the work that's being done with the research. So as Ann talked about the C6, one of the requirements is we publish an annual report, and this will be our annual report. Every year, the Insights on Excellence annual report will be our mission-based deliverable.
And that's available to ASQ members?
It's available to everybody, to the public, and it's free. And there's one out there already. We published our first one in November of 2020, so it's available on the website. We didn't just create the IOE tool and then back into it. We actually established some objectives, and what I already pointed out there is we needed to support an annual research initiative and deliver on that C6 requirement. What we also learned during the research, and I think you'll appreciate this because I see this is how the G1 fits in as well as Baldrige. We heard from the research from our org members, they wanted a maturity model, an excellence maturity model. So how do I get from point A to point B, and how do I benchmark against world-class organizations? So that next bullet is exactly what Ann talked about, is organizational members, no matter how small or how big, they don't have the ability to benchmark on a global basis by industry or by region or by size of an organization. It's very internally focused, and it's not very independent. So even an organization like Tata out of India is thrilled about the tool that we're releasing because it gives us an independent perspective. And then, of course, it's the opportunity for us to establish thought leadership for ASQ and ASQE based on the findings that we get out of the report every year. And to tie it all together, before in our warm-up act, we were talking about the relationship with Baldrige. We intentionally used the Baldrige framework because we felt that that was the natural progression in terms of the maturity model. So you'll notice that 7 of those 8 categories that are in the research today are Baldrige criteria. And what we did do, based on some input that we had, we added one called barriers and disruptors. Little did we know that when we released this in the structure in 2019, that 3 months later we'd be in a pandemic. So talk about barriers and disruptors. You'll see our first annual report is all about the impact of the pandemic in this world of barriers and disruptors, and it's also encompassing digital transformation.
And the great thing about this, Jim, is that you have the opportunity based upon emerging trends to expand it.
Exactly.
So you have that
flexibility. This will evolve and
flexibility.
expand. And I don't want anyone to think that we've sat in the headquarters and developed this in a vacuum. We actually, use the resources available through ASQ. Several of the divisions, including QMD and the Human Development and Leadership Group, were involved, as well as Team Workplace Solutions Forum was there too. So we had all the quality professionals engaged and involved. They help us with that framework, and then we're delivering it out to the world every year, either to org members as a benchmarking tool or to the world as a research report. I'm not going to go through a lot of the detail here because, as I already offered up before, we'll come back and do a webinar just on the IOE data. We'd love to do that and share and drill down, and we can even drill down by industry segments or regions of the world. But this will be just a high-level overview of some of the contents that are in the report. The beautiful part about the data, the first data pull that we did, the baseline of in 2020, was we had about 1,036 respondents, and it was really well distributed in terms of the regions of the world. Also on the far right, and if you can't read it, it's very interesting to note that about half of the respondents were C-level in the organizations, and half were quality professionals. Also significant in terms of the revenue size, they were multi-billion-dollar organizations and down to small ones. So we have a very good cross-section. We have about 47 different industry categories that were documented, and you'll see the top 10 on there, one of which is government, education, and non-for-profit. We thought we would make it relevant to this audience and pull out just the government. So this was not a huge sample size, but we had 45 participants, about 4.3% of the respondents, and you see a nice breakdown between the different regions of the world. And again, that almost a 50-50 split with the C-suites versus the quality professionals, and then the employee side. So we are constantly looking at how do we build the robustness to this database. We're fielding another survey in June, and actually we're using Forbes. We partner with them because they have access to a phenomenal, they have 750 million people in their database. We're actually focusing on certain categories. This is one of them, by the way, so that we have more data for you guys to look at in terms of benchmarking. And these are just some of the key categories. Remember, I mentioned the Baldrige criteria, so we have a category report that we just issued. These are very high-level takeaways. Trust me, we can drill down into a much finer detail on each one of these topics, but if you haven't had the opportunity, I would also invite anybody to watch the WCQI presentation on IOE, because we did go into much more detail, and thanks to Jamie Kovac, who's on Android, she was the SME that we used to speak to the data. There's some really very interesting takeaways. We pulled out a few here that we think might be relevant to the G1, including leadership. If you want to go to the next one. The workforce category, holding people accountable. Do they have good ways to measure and track performance? Next one would be strategy. So there's a strategy component. All related to question banks that are related to how is this impacting your journey of excellence. Also, which is not represented here, they're broken out by quality professional responses versus leadership, and it's very interesting to see some of the differences there, particularly the gaps that quality professionals may think that we're further along in some of these areas of leadership and vice versa. So we can just have a lot of great insights here that we're starting to share. Here's another important one, operations category. This jumped out at Ann and I just because if you look at the very top left, the biggest challenge today versus several years ago when we did a preliminary data pull like this was the change in standards. I think it's impacting everybody, and it's significant. Again, another one of those that applies to the G1 is the measurement and results. If you don't have good measurement tactics, how are you going to track and improve performance? So there are multiple reports out there today. I will point out to you that top banner just shows our webpage. It's in the resources section under ASQ.org. On the bottom left is the first Insights on Excellence report we issued last year. That's free. On the far right is the category report. That's available to individuals or members. $29 is the membership cost. In the middle is the annual research report. It's about 56 pages. This one in particular focuses on barriers and disruptors. Again, that's available to anybody, so feel free to go there and download it to get an overview of the process, the technique, and the strategy. I'd also like to report out that we are about to release our first detailed industry report. The highest respondents we had was in the automotive category. We're in the process of publishing now an automotive IOE version with support from Ann and our org members. We have input from General Motors and Chrysler, and Ann's got the automotive division participants engaged as well, so that we show the world the connection between ASQ and ASQE and what this research does to drive thought leadership, content development, support of our organizations, support of the individuals. So you begin to see, hopefully, this ecosystem that we keep referring to.
An ecosystem is the perfect transition to this point of the presentation, where it identifies specifically the connection from IOE, that great data that we just talked about through the benchmarking tool, to the technical communities like the government division. So system, absolutely. It was intentional that the benchmarking tool would provide data, but organizations aren't really the type that interpret data, that subject matter experts who are individuals. Aligning that with industry and different topical areas, that belongs to the TCC. So Jim's data is thrown over the fence back to ASQ. We go through the Technical Communities Council to identify where those opportunities are, and then we look to the divisions, like the government division, to develop content and education, contribute to QBOC, so that we can close the gaps that are identified through the Excellence Maturity Benchmarking Model. So it feeds itself. And that's where things really get exciting, because year over year, our divisions are going to have data that tells them what is most relevant in quality and what do the organizations that you serve need to be aware of to improve. This has never been done before with the society, and quite frankly, it's something where ASQ members can raise the flag where they were and say, this is why quality matters. Here is the data behind why I'm advocating we need to do this.
And the power of all the divisions moving forward within a line strategy is so huge compared to, not that anybody was doing anything wrong, but it was always very disparate in terms of what was important to that division that year. So we feel like this gives everybody the opportunity to rally behind a common cause.
And so this is just, a slide. Number one, hopefully you get my joke. It's very hard to find a graphic on standards. And so I just, as a default, went to John Coltrane. So all you jazz fans out there, you're welcome. But looking at that TCC connection, it's connecting IOE gap with education. Well, we need our subject matter experts to provide the substance for our education. We want that to be aligned with emerging trends. And secondly, when it's substantial enough, how can that IOE data influence standards? We've had several conversations with Mark, with Larry and this group about G1. How does that fit into excellence maturity and the framework?
Yeah, and I believe the IOE could be a stepping stone, like the first step in somebody identifying what their gaps are in relation to the G1.
So with all this new content development in play, it makes sense for ASQ to look at its knowledge management, QBOC in particular. We are investing in advancing QBOC through technology with better access and a complete system. We want QBOC to be a strategic asset. At the end of this year, you'll start to see more announcements with the QBOC improvements, with a significant amount of it being released in early 2022. So just another headquarters update. There's a ton of SMEs supporting this initiative throughout the technical communities. So that was the big hitter in goal number one. Goal number two has one that's just as big. So we talked about thought leadership and content development. Now we're going to move into the learning experience and training. The big call here is the provider network concept. For any of you that were participants in WCQY, you heard the announcement of ASQ's new training and educational model. It is called ASQExcellence. Again, this is not publicly launched. We're in the pilot phases, but we are starting to communicate it to our members to grow interest and to grow education. Look for a full public announcement later this summer. And oh, by the way, don't be surprised, it's 100% connected to IOE. Right? So again, we are creating a sustainable system for the societies that we have never done before. Very, very exciting. So what is ASQExcellence? ASQExcellence is modeled off of what some of you have probably encountered called a provider network. Provider network is an education delivery system that a lot of best-in-class membership societies have already adopted, PMI being the main one. We have a lot of ASQ members who have been involved in PMI's provider network, but ours is way better. So what is a provider network? It's a system in general for vetting and designated highly qualified instructors who deliver standardized, so it's ASQ and ASQE education and certification preparation materials to organizations, members, and the public. So that's the traditional concept. This is where ours gets spicier. This is where it has greater value proposition. It provides solutions to gaps that are identified to IOE benchmarking tool that's available to organizations in alignment with excellence maturity model. Right, so can education stand alone? Absolutely. It can, and provider network education can, but where things really start to advance for organizations is when you show the value proposition of, oh, my annual benchmarking report came out and said I am down in these 2 areas. Great, there's an ASQ Connect directory that aligns it with the education we need and the subject matter expert consultants and trainers who can help me get there. Right, then year over year, hopefully this is a trusted advisor that helps them continue on that path through excellence maturity.
So, and that annual report comes out clearly annually, but the beauty of it is that you can count on that. And then when you're doing your benchmarking, you're getting a dashboard as an org member that gives you the benchmarking ability, or how you look in your region, how you might look in your country, how you might look in your industry segment, or even against world-class organizations. So Connect Network can come in and see year over year the improvements or the gaps or the declines, and it's a consistency that you have, and it's not just an independent perspective. So that's what we see is the loyalty that we're also going to get through the org membership, is being able to offer such a strong tool, and then the solutions to provide that. Another key output of the benchmarking is that when you get your results in the dashboard, it will immediately connect you with content in QBOC or divisions that is relevant to that category topic. So articles, webinars, conferences, or courses. So it's an immediate connection to the resources available to org members within ASQ.
And I love the parallel opportunities then for standards in particular come to play, because this is the excellence maturity, but then standards hit on certain areas within those different frameworks, and so they don't compete. So hopefully some of you caught the presentation that was done at WCQI by Larry as well as Rich Mallory that was talking about G1 and how some of this interplay. Well, you can start before they get to the standard of where are we in the general stratosphere? Where are we on excellence? Then once that comes through IOE, connecting and looking at those standards for potential measurement and growth within it.
And this really, I hope you get to begin to feel a sense of how this supports the mission. There are large consulting firms, we all know who they are, and they'll come in and do this, but they'll do this at a significant cost to the customer. Not only that, they can't always provide the solution. So here we're doing this as our mission is to help all organizations and all communities on a global basis.
Yep. And so truly then going back to the beginning of the presentation, when ASQ was established to benefit the public. And so what better nexus to have than when you have the tools and resources to help the government serve the public within the sphere. I love the potential that you can see. Comparing the new education model with the old one, what's different? There's channel expansion. The main one I want to talk about is with member units like the government division. So in the past, divisions and sections were largely autonomous on their own, delivering the training separate from any type of centralized system or support with the society. The opportunity is there, and I say opportunity. None of the sections or divisions are forced to adapt the provider network, ASQ connections, as I call them, but we encourage it because of the potential alignment that exists. So if you break it down in just a few ways, think about the potential we have here. So number one, you have a government division that is full of quality experts and consultants. They go through the ASQ program and they are vetted and designated under ASQ Connect branding with a fantastic digital badge. I've seen these. We have a hot new logo coming out that's trademarked for these providers. We want to distinguish them from people that have honestly been ripping off the ASQ trademark. Pretty cool X that you'll see, so that is protected and locked down. When you are vetted and designated, you are marked so the public knows you are one of ASQ's approved, vetted, designated providers. Those individuals then have a license, a specific license to deliver ASQ and ASQ training content based upon what they were vetted to teach, right? And the pilots are going through that right now. Then those individuals that are passed are included from this really amazing digital directory that's going to be available to organizations that'll be launched later this year. Those individuals will be marked based upon their industry and their subject matter expertise. So Jim's organizations and the public organizations that are looking for solutions because of their gaps, they can find them. It's like Match.com. You know, you have people that are organizations that are looking for solutions, and you got subject matter experts that are really wanting to help them. We want to bring them together and get out of the way. So the big change is that that transaction isn't between ASQ and organizations, it's that SME in an organization.
Yeah. We always use the analogy of UL, so like these are UL approved providers, and I don't know if you all appreciate how important that is. I mean, in my 5 years here, I've had really some difficult conversations with companies who have used ASQ trainers who were really misrepresenting themselves, misrepresenting the content. It was being branded incorrectly. It was being, you know, plagiarized and just done a really poor job of delivering. That's what we want to prevent, and that's what we want to shut down. Is we want that customer to get the best experience possible consistently and get the consistent training and content that they need.
Mm-hmm. And now we got these quality experts, right? And they're vetted. Let's go to phase 2. So you have vetted quality experts in government that are in the system. Then the government division wants to do training. What we want to see is when our divisions and sections who have a vetted and designated ASQ Connect trainer, we want to see that training become an extension of what used to be public course offerings, right? Those will be identified as an extension of public course, so the master calendar that the website runs, that would be included in there. The best part about it is ASQ has never really had the luxury to target industry when it delivered training. When we go down this path, for the first time, you can align industry and training to, in your situation, focus on the government sector, right? We weren't doing that before with ASQ content. And it can be aligned. You can go in, the division can go in armed with their SME with the benchmarking data from the government sector to show you those emerging trends. So this value proposition is just getting bigger and bigger and bigger because of this system, right? And then finally, as org membership rolls out, org membership includes affiliate professional members who can sit in the government division, right? So then you start to see those potential partnerships forming when you have active people within your division that are represented in government organizations, and it all comes together. So this is where we get really excited to present to the divisions, like the government division, on where things can go that they couldn't go in the past, and we want to partner on it. System, we said the word. This graphic doesn't do it complete justice. We're still trying to tweak it before it goes public. Again, all of this is in pilot phase right now. Public will come later this year. But it shows the different interconnected parts of ASQ and ASQE, starting with IOB over on the right side. That data thrown over to the thought leadership and the TCs for content and education development, identification of trainers to then deliver that content back over to org members and to the public for students. That education and products also support certification prep to advanced certification of ASQE. So all of these pieces are coming together. I like to be ambitious. I'm hopeful that within a year or two we actually can put this into a 9001 quality management system approach and knock it out of the park, but baby steps at the beginning. So I'm touching on these two things very briefly so we can hear a little bit more about org membership. Goal number 3 is enhancing the member experience. There's a lot of big hitters here. Later this year, we're going to be launching digital career pathing that is fantastic based on interest. No matter where you are in your quality professional goals, we can show you how to get to that next level. And all the different courses, it includes technical community involvement. We've intentionally put that in there. How do you get where you want to go next in your career? What is the education that ASQ can offer you and leadership opportunities too to get to that next level? Developing a young quality professional strategy. For those of you that were here during the pre-show, we were touching on that. There's a lot of focus going on next-gen professionals, including how we interact with them in our events. We are going to be focusing in too on giving guidance to the communities on how to attract next-gen members and engage them. They learn different. They socialize different. We want to make sure that everyone recognizes that. And finally, implementing new technology. This is a big one. We've made massive strides already this year. This hits on a couple of them. The big ones, enhanced digital QP. Hopefully you're enjoying the launch of the electronic badges for certification. Those are all over the place. People are loving those.
It's amazing how that has blown up on LinkedIn.
and that is confirmed and locked down. So in the past, people just claim it, that they are certified. Now this protected link is there.
I don't know if anybody has experienced it, but you actually can click on the link and it would validate the dates of that certification for the individual. We've had a lot of issues here at headquarters where companies would call and want validation of somebody's certification for HR and hiring purposes, which we would do, but it was shocking to me how many people were misrepresenting their certifications, that it either expired or they never even had. So this is just a real-time way for anybody to click on an individual's LinkedIn badge and see their credentials.
This also is an opportunity, too, to make a distinction. The word certification is thrown around pretty loosely, right? And so we get a lot of comments on them, like, what is the value? ASQ certification is so much more expensive, and that's baloney. We're actually below market. A lot of people confuse it with quality certificates. Right, those don't go through the rigor, and they definitely don't have the ISO accreditation that the ASQ ASQE brand does, and that is a massive differentiator and why those electronic badges are so important. We have to protect those people that actually have those credentials.
Just, I think a little interesting nugget of there are some bright spots coming out of the pandemic. For example, we were shut down with all of our certification testing last March. We have a third party that does delivery of the testing, the same one that does the ACT and SAT. In testing centers. Well, clearly you couldn't go to a testing center. For about 6 weeks we were shut down, and they had a remote proctoring system, which means you could sit in the comfort and safety of your home or your office, and they would have somebody on camera with you watching as you took your certification exam. If you can believe in the record era of growth of certification, that this point in time we are at delivering 50% of our cert exams in that remote proctoring. So within a year we've flipped from this test center location to 50% of the exams being delivered remotely. And we picked up, what did we say the other day, over 50 different countries that didn't have test centers. We're now certifying people.
You had two in Azerbaijan.
We had two in Azerbaijan.
Yes, who received training for cert prep from someone in Canada.
Yes.
So,
one of the ASQ members.
Yes, yes.
So this just opens up the opportunity. I mean, these are behind the scenes things that people don't even appreciate or understand, but fortunately for us, we were considered essential in what we're doing because it was protecting the public with the medical devices and food and beverage and all the pharmaceutical. So we were able to accelerate that, and the test centers have reopened, but we'll never have to go back to the time where you have to go to a physical location, which even in the States could have been inconvenient for somebody that lived in a rural area. So just a little tidbit of like I said, there's a bright spot every now and then from the pandemic.
Yeah. It also pushed ASQ to adopt technology. I will admit the society was terribly behind. And so we've gone through a real renaissance. The first hire that I did when I was interim CEO was to bring in a CIO to really look at our technology capabilities and digital. And he was so fantastic. He's already been promoted to our first Chief Operating Officer under my term. His name's Sid Bhatnagar, and I'm very excited for everyone to meet and engage with him. He has great vision with respect to how technology can improve our engagement, bring about more efficiency for the future. Along those same lines, he helped shepherd through the launch of our first mobile app, and I hope everyone has downloaded and is now able to get content anytime, anywhere, and connect with fellow ASQers. Social 27 is the new platform that WCQI was on. Extreme engagement, extreme capabilities that we could never do in the past, including very effective hybrid model. And so we will be testing those capabilities at the 4.0 conference this fall in San Antonio. So in person and virtual, everyone can join us for 4.0.
When you speak to the resources, I think it's worth mentioning too that ASQE did not break away and start out an entire duplicative organization. I have about 15 staff, and then we get a majority of support from ASQ, which we pay fair market value for those services. So that's finance, IT, marketing, education support. That's just events. So I did not have to take member dollars and use those to invest in a duplicate resource. You've heard some, like we talk about the myth busting. We're very agile and we're very efficient, and we're not doing this without fair market value payment to ASQ for that service.
The final goal number 4, For the first time ever, I'm proud to say that ASQ is addressing culture and inclusion in its strategic plan, long overdue. We specifically have an initiative focused on diversity, equity, inclusion. Hopefully some of you are aware of the establishment of the Diversity and Culture Task Force. That's led by board member Tree Steiner. She's doing some fantastic work. Hopefully over the course of the last year, you have heard ASQ stating its position to want to include everyone. Quality is for everyone, and we want to make sure that they have equal opportunity for their voices to be heard everywhere around the world. I truly believe that a key part of that is technology advancement. That allows greater inclusion and engagement. So the last point that I'll bring up about our strategic plan is that connection between inclusion and government. So inclusion work kicked off this year. There'll be big work going on next year to look at our governance structure, including our bylaws, and how to bring those up to date, including involvement of technology. How do we get more efficient? How do we make decisions with greater agility? Those are tough things to tackle. The current chair of the board, Janet Raddatz, is leading that initiative, and she'll continue on it next year. There's going to be a lot of opportunity for people to have their voices be heard on that. Because we need it. And at the end of the day, the proposals will go to a complete member vote so that we as a society can come through this unified, but also with subject matter expertise. And that's very important to point out. Association management is a profession, and there's right ways to do it and there's wrong ways to do it. So whereas the society's mission is to advance the members and member value and thought leadership for excellence through quality, the structure that is optimal to take that in governance and move it forward can't be taken lightly. It takes a lot of time and professional guidance. And so all of that work is going on behind the scenes right now so that we get the best outcome for our members. For the last few minutes, I think we have just about 3 minutes, Jim, to go through this before we go to Q&A.
Yep.
So I'll turn it back over to you for a little bit more on org membership.
So just stay tuned. This is just a sneak peek at what's coming, and I already alluded to the fact that we spent a couple of years of doing research to really understand what org members wanted. I'd be the first to admit that the membership model that we've had is broke for a lot of reasons, and I'll touch on that. But our takeaway was in this research, so one of the key takeaways was that the organizations were looking for this benchmarking piece. They were satisfied with the content and the ability to engage and network and be part of the events, but they were missing this benchmarking resource. So that's how IOE comes full circle in the new model. If you want to go to the next. These are being announced and it's coming very soon. It's actually on the, go and look at what the benefits are in detail. I listed these in order and its importance. The IOE industry benchmarking tool, again, as an org member, you're able to take that and understand where your gaps are. I think the second most important and something that was really relevant to this meeting we had earlier in the week to talk about with the content is the affiliate members in the Anybody that's been exposed to the org membership, you will know that any linked employee was not ever identifiable to the local section or the divisions. So there was actually a wall that we were building due to data privacy issues, but regardless, it was a wall that was being built between ASQ individual member communities and the organizational member. You know, you could be in Detroit and you'd be the Detroit section and you have no idea who in General Motors was on in the organizational membership. So if you want to look at the next slide, please. And
oh, by the way, ASQE pays ASQ for everything that supports those individual members.
Yes, including the membership. Affiliate members is the term that we're using. Affiliate employees is another term. The key difference is the affiliate members is basically a professional ASQ member. So with the there are 3 different categories of membership, depending on what you want to invest in, and you'll get buckets of individual members within each, all the way up to 50. And then there's discounts on additional ones. As soon as we sell a large organizational membership, Anne is going to pick up 50 individual members from that organization, and it's on ASQ to engage and participate and get them involved, including holding offices.
Yep, and so Jim lands a government organization membership. I'm going to come to you, Mark, and say, here's 50 new members for your division. Please make them happy.
Yes. So we're leaning on the communities to engage, which leads to retention. And that, as we talked earlier, I don't think people appreciate or understand how much of a mess that was. I could not share for legal reasons locally with geographic communities who wanted to engage.
Yeah.
That was just such an anomaly to me. Like, why would you ever, one of the benefits is engaging with your local experts or peers. So that wall is going to be eliminated very soon as we launch the new membership model.
Yeah. So we covered a lot, Mark.
There's a lot.
So we're excited about it. People can talk. So we'll turn it back to you. Hopefully there's some questions out there.
11:49, not bad.
Yeah.
There are several questions, and thank you to both of you. I mean, every time I hear both of you speak, it's just such a, I mean, it's a wealth of information. And I mean, we could have probably several of these and still not cover everything. It's clear that so much is happening right now, and I'm just so excited about that. So we do have a few questions for you. So one of the things that at least occurs to me is, you know, on the large scale, when I think about the government sector is large. I mean, we're talking about, you know, U.S. government, you know, federal, state, local, international governments, and everyone that supports the government. Government contractors. There's a ton of government contractors and consultants that support. How is ASQ or ASQE reaching out and connecting to these various groups to try to promote what we all are doing?
So one of the key things that we're doing, and I referenced it earlier, I'm investing quite heavily with leaning on a resource like Forbes, who again has about 750 million individuals in their database. We paid pretty significant amount of money to get Forbes to recruit participants in that research. We would have never been able to capture 1,000 respondents across those different regions of the world. There are some significant marketing campaigns coming as we roll out not only the Connects network, but the org membership as well as IOE, and we're also going to be leaning on that as a vehicle. We're investing significantly in the marketing, and it's going to be really well done, and it is very smart. Social media, and I would also lean on individuals like yourselves who can help promote it as much as we can.
And Mark, there's a couple of different ways because of these model changes that will impact, oddly, how individuals can help attract and bring in organizations and ASQ. When I think about likely org members, you're going to see a mix of those that have them pushing quality as a part of their culture, like we talked about Tata, talk about a quality of excellence. So you have those that are very mature. And then you have those that really need help because they're struggling. The ASQ Connect education model that is out there, for those vetted approved providers, we are empowering them to use org membership as a tool.
Yes, that's very good.
And so the subject matter experts and consultants out there on the street, then when they're already providing training, they're reaching out to industries that need help. They can say, hey, one thing that can help us establish where you are at the beginning is the IOE, excellence and maturity model. From there, we can help figure out where these gaps are because presumably, if they're having a lot of gaps, they don't know a lot about excellence maturity or exactly what education they need. That's where IOE comes into play. The other thing that I'll say is that Jim and I have been doing a lot of targeted roadshows.
Yeah.
Right? If there are hot areas in industry, we are the first to say, give us a call. We're going to come stand by you, and we're going to give a pitch on the member value of ASQ and ASQE. I look forward with everyone in the government division through the current members, but also people and organizations we think will be partners with us in the future. Let's go talk to them now, right? There is no negative to that. We brought up Baldrige earlier. We want to talk to them. We want to discuss where we see that potential collaboration to bring them in. So it's going to happen, I can tell you that, because we have not yet started to push it, and people are coming to our doorway.
Right.
And so, Mark, within your division, just with the members in the division, if they identify what they believe is a government agency, department, whatever it is, so there's potential, we're going to be standing right beside you.
I would also say that if there's somebody in the division that is now serving those government locations as a consultant or a provider, we will make it financially worth their while. So not only do they have access to the org membership, they will be receiving a kind of a commission on it, so they can sell it to a government location, and they'll be able to make a financial transaction, make it worth their while. That's kind of the tie-in for how they get to come back and demonstrate progress and really the difference that they've been able to make.
And I'm going to call out your automotive example. So Jim stated earlier that there's going to be an industry report out on automotive about the IOE data. Right there, think about how that marketing to the automotive industry is going to go, right? But there's a similar report out on government. Think about the marketing power of that. We didn't have that capability before as an organization, and we couldn't do it unless we created this new connected system.
Oh, yeah.
So Mark, think of that day. Every year you're going to get a government annual report of IOE data for current trends in government to then deliver out to potential departments and agencies to attract to the society.
Yeah.
I think that's great, and that might be another hook to help encourage quality improvement and the pursuit of excellence with our elected leaders. I think it's especially difficult, I think, to get some of those folks on board because they're changing leadership positions all the time. So I think that if there's anything we can do to help with that process, I think would be great between all of us. A couple other questions. One comment is, great to see FDA is on the list of organizations. Please let us know, what some of the, what's happening between FDA and ASQ in terms of driving some synergies.
I will. I got a private message during the meeting on that, and I will close the loop. That's fantastic.
Okay, cool. Does ASQE have or plan to have a similar resource to connect to support non-training consulting firms?
So I don't see that in ASQE's offering, but I mean, it could be a consideration for the Connects network. Yes.
So one thing, and maybe I wasn't as clear about this about ASQ Connects. So once you're a vetted, designated provider that can deliver training, right, that electronic badge is with you no matter what. So I'm assuming a lot of the individuals that are trainers are consultants. And so that naturally goes into their marketing capability because they can say, not only am I a trainer, but I'm a consultant, and ASQ has kind of blessed me, so to speak. One of the big kind of complaints that we had with ASQ trainers in the past was that they couldn't consult. Now, because that financial transaction doesn't involve ASQ, right? This is the ASQ Connect provider and the organizations coming together. We are not involved in that direct transaction. Consulting is allowed. We as a nonprofit, ASQ, can't do consulting work for industry. That's not to benefit the public. So again, Mark, I go back to the people might not recognize we have to benefit the public. We serve the public just like the government. And so those rules are there. But by just getting a license to that, it enables our trainers who are SMEs to go out and do that consulting work.
I think another interesting perspective of the network would be is it doesn't mean you're going to be leading with quality. We have interest from individuals who are certified as SHRM, HR individuals, financial experts, services industry. So we're going to be able to open that up. What does that do for you guys? It even brings more members in because it's outside of the traditional quality market that would be delivering. But we know that the quality principles, some of the basics, the leadership, even just the IOE piece of it can be valued by any, basically consultants in all those different areas that we already spoke about. Helps with development, organization, structure, strategy.
Yeah, and actually there's a question that popped up, which is actually, I think it's more directed to the division. Considering that government touches a large swath of industries and services, does the division have any upcoming partnerships with other TCC divisions, healthcare, service quality, energy, and environmental? I will also mention, the defense and airline. These are areas that we do try to connect with other divisions on a regular basis. So I think that's and that kind of goes in line with, Jim, what you were just saying as well.
Yeah, and with these barriers down, I mean, think about in the future if there's roundtables and you can bring NASA and Boeing and the government division all together to talk about this data and where these trends are going. So I hope, I hope all that collaboration can happen.
And just one small note in terms of, we don't want to lose sight of the mission. One of the things that I'm most excited about is when it's the right time. I would love to deliver the IOE tool at no charge to communities, local school systems, developing countries. Just think of the power of that when we offer a tool like that, and it's truly mission-based. I think I can really get some excitement behind that. We've already spoken to the communities of excellence. They believe that that is a very good foundation. I would love to leverage that on a global basis, and I would be very proud of us being able to do that as part of our mission.
I think that's great. And actually, along those lines, is there a vision of possibly creating a repository of performance benchmarks that are specific to government, federal, state, local governments? There's a lot of common metrics that everybody kind of deals with on a regular basis in government.
Yeah, clearly that's going to take us some time, but that's why we're trying to prime the pump with this Forbes information. And then our hope is that we get more and more organizations involved. That just keeps adding more data points to the database.
So one last question: do ASQ professionals with businesses get membership in ASQE?
Organizational membership within ASQE is different. I would look at it the other way. If the organization joins ASQE as an org member, the individuals can be ASQ professional employees through that affiliate. And
I'm going to tell you why. The government won't let us. So the IRS, and as you saw, the IRS is a member. So we actually have to be very, very cognizant. So I don't lie when I tell you this activity must be in this bucket, this one must be in another one. The IRS is actually right here and can validate all of that. So we can't. So again, going back to we serve the public, we shouldn't be advancing industry and some of those things. That's not what we do, but we educate and advance and bring thought leadership and allow great collaboration like the communities. So unfortunately for that one, it's a mandated one-way street because of the benchmarking that's occurring.
But there's still a way to connect.
You know, I really appreciate this, and I know all of the attendees appreciated this conversation as well. This event has been recorded, and it will be posted for others to see at a later point in time. And I'm just very excited about where we're going and where the society is going. So again, I just want to, first of all, I hope everyone has a great afternoon, evening, morning, wherever you happen to be. And thank you again to Ann and Jim for an incredible event.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm going to take the last word. Thank you, Government Division, everyone that participated. You are very lucky to have tremendous leaders within this community, and I think that's probably one of the reasons why Jim and I is gravitating first to our first division and how much excitement we have. So Mark, Larry, John, all of you that are out there, thank you for your dedication to the society. It is because of you, the member leaders, that ASQ is able to do all these fantastic things. So you have our gratitude. I look forward to the collaboration and partnership going forward.
Thank you. Take care.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much.